let's figure out where the motor goes. Just kidding, it's a foam block. We gotta get the motor mounts in this sucker, so I got the foam mock-up block with an original pan on it. I've got to get the transmission mounted, water pumps on it, and an intake, and get my motor mounts ready for it so we can figure out kind of where it's going to go. We're running the 41 trans with the F1 truck crossmember. So basically what we need to do, let me get you over here. So what we'll do is we'll get the motor in here and we'll get the motor mounts mocked up. They'll go right in here pretty close to this crossmember, but we'll get the fan pretty close, just about as close as we can, and we'll get that motor. We'll set right in here perfectly. We'll have to knock that thing off and move that wire. But we'll set that motor right back against that firewall, and then we'll put that radiator on there and make sure to clear. We should be good to go. We're going to use this trans because it's handy, and it's already got the F1 trans mount on it. I'll get the water pumps. We got to get some bolts. We need a bell for that. Let's see. We need an intake. Intake's not real. It's not a piece that I need to have right now, but it won't hurt because we need to see where that fuel pump stand is going to be. So we'll get a bell for that, and we'll get that all bolted up, put together. There's a good temporary bell. Let's see if that'll work on there. The inline 6 bell looks very similar. Yep, I think that's the one I used for mock-up before on the Tom Sellers too, so we'll use that one right there. Okay, we'll do that a little bit different. Let's get that up on there. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Trying not to get grease all over me. Got my favorite sweatshirt on, man. Yeah. Now all the stuff's probably falling out of it. That one's not going in. Nope. Let's see, where we at here? These are the motor mounts that I drew up and had cut out, but I don't care for them because there's not enough brace underneath there. I feel like this brace stops right here at the back of that biscuit, so I think that won't bend. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and redraw these and have some other ones cut out. But these I'm gonna go ahead and use in the Roadster because I'm just gonna add a strip right around the edge and tie it back in and smooth it out. You won't even be able to know. Can't tell, so that'll work. But these are long. These will be on my, when I get them redrawn and cut out, they'll be on my website. But I've cut them at, I think that's 6 inches, I believe, long. That way you can trim them to fit your frame and your width. I snagged a set of 8 RT water pumps for this project from 3rd Gen Auto. I'm running the Mercury 8BA, which has the front distributor, and in order to get this motor to fit in there without having to cut the firewall, you have to use the 8RT pumps, which are a little longer, but they have the single wide belt pulley. We'll get those on there. You're ready to go in now. You need to pop that cap off that trans. You know what, I think I might swap that trans out. I think I will, because getting it in there underneath that firewall is going to be a pain, and this one's pretty dirty, and I really don't want to open that up and get that dirt down inside there, so I think I'll go ahead and swap that sucker out. Here we go. Yeah. Oh yeah. We're going to try to do the column shift in it. Come on, baby. Get in there. Go to your home. Man, here we go. Oh. Okay. That's better. Now we can stab that sucker in there. I got these mounted up on here, and this is 28 5/8 across. Inside of my frame is 26 1/8, so that's 2.5 inches difference. So basically I need to cut 1.25 inches off of each one. This is the F1 crossmember. This is what I'm going to use in there for my transmission mount. Let's see what that is. Almost 29 inches. And the frame right there is, woohoo, 26 1/2 still. So it's 26 1/2 from the inside edge, which is perfect. Pedals off. That's off. Yeah, those are on there. Yes, that one is. There we go. Now we'll save that fitting and that splitter there. That's a. You guys over here where the action is. What are you looking over there for? That's your distribution block. It's a brass block, and then you've got a bolt that goes through it that accepts your stoplight switch. So we'll save those pieces off there, and the rest of that's going in the trash. Spider. Die! Alright, before I mount up this cross member on the transmission, I'm going to go ahead and get these motor mounts slicked off. I need to trim them 1.25 inches, and the frame's actually angled in, so I'm going to trim them 1.25 inches on one end and 1 1/16 inches on the other end. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little gusset on these. These will be, like I said before, will be available on the website, but I'm going to adjust my drawing and have some more cut out, and then I'll post them on the website as soon as I start getting some in. These were just the prototypes that I drew up, and I don't like that because it just leaves too much hanging out that could bend, which I don't think. It probably wouldn't bend much because it's going to be bolted up, but I don't want to take the chance. I'd rather have that gusset on there like that to where it's got some pressure pushing on that. So we'll adjust those and then get them burned out another set, and we're going to use these because we got them. So let's weld them up. Got my little template made up. I'm going to fill that in just like that right there. We got to make 4 of those, and I found some scrap 1/8 inch, which is the same as that. So we're going to cut them up real quick and get them going. We got to get this thing in here. We got stuff to do. Just got done wire wheeling this. We're going to have to move this pedal mount over. I'm going to go ahead and start marking my holes and grab the pedals. Show you a little better here. This would be the driver's side. Your pedals would normally mount right there. So we're going to move those over 1 bolt hole. So these bolt holes will be in these bolt holes, if that makes sense. Too many bolt holes. So we're going to move it over like that. We'll have to make a tab for this side to catch that, and then we're going to mark all the other holes so that we can get them drilled out. That'll get the pedals over there right next to that transmission and make it to where all I have to do then will be heat and bend these pedals to get them around the steering column that's going in there. And it's got a center punch right in the middle so you can find the absolute center. A little bit of rust in there, so let's go down one more. Most of those I haven't ever even used. There we go. Okay, need to cool it off, and then we'll need to grind it a little bit more, just a tad bit more. It's almost there though. That thing's hot. Oh yeah, that's the money right there. There's 5 bolt holes in that daggum thing. But it's got a lot of leverage on it when you're pushing that pedal, man. It's surprising how much force you can put on that. Alright, that's officially cleaned up as good as I can get it. Washer can get the rest of that. You just don't want to have a lot of oil and grease on a metal piece that you're going to send to the blaster, because the blaster won't take that stuff off. It'll just push it right around. It'll heat it up, basically is what it'll do, and it'll get it all over everything. Grind that one down, and we're ready to figure out the center line of that on the frame. There you go, son. Look good to me. Boom. Let's go over here. Alright, now we can bolt her up. What we'll end up doing is we'll slice this cross member right through here. That way we can bend that up a little bit and set that down in the frame rail on both sides. So then your frame rail will slide right in there. Let me do that real quick. I'll be right back. I'm not using any lock washers right now because this is just totally mock up. All this stuff's going to have to come back apart, so we're just going to use some bolts on it. Okay, that's in there. Good deal. Now we need to put the plate on that motor, and well, actually we need to pull the body. We'll pull the body, set it back. I need to put it up on jack stands real quick and get that rear end completely out of there. Got the rear end out. That should get me close enough. Now, in order to put that F1 crossmember in here, I've got to trim out this stock crossmember, front and back. And I'll get the crossmember up in here in the motor and we'll see what all we need. It's gonna be pretty close right in here, right in front of that. Normally, I would probably pull that out since we're putting the other one in, but I want to keep the rigidity and it won't hurt to have it in there. I'll just notch that and it'll be good to go. I also need to notch the front of this crossmember here, the front one, because that front pulley is going to hit, it's going to hit that piece right there, that flange, if I don't. So I'll probably just zip it right off, just like the edge, just follow it right down through there. Let me get this motor plate on here that my buddy Gabe made and let me borrow. And I haven't returned it yet. Thanks, Gabe. Big bottom knot there. Found me an old fuel pump stand and a couple of nuts off of another intake. Cool, went right on. This is just going to be for temporary mock-up, so we just want to see where that fuel pump stand is going to hit. So that foot right there has got to go all the way up to here. And I do need to take that off real quick. Pop that thing off. I'll crawl up in there, see if I can pick it up that way it doesn't fall all the way down and hit the back end. So, see if we can get a hold of it, do it. The back's obviously heavier. Cool. Yeah, looks like we'll have to just cut a little bit off the firewall. I've got it marked. I'm going to cut about 6 inches out of the center there. And it's not going to look like the center because this right here is offset. So it's going to be off. My center is actually offset on that as well. Set her back down on there and see what she do. Oh, she's close. Yeah, she's real close. All right, you guys want to see it up close? Let's go. Alright, you can see right in there how close that is. It's an 1/8 inch, if that, off of there. This needs to be trimmed right here, and that little flange again, I need to trim it over a little bit because I forgot those bolts for the transmission are offset. They're not centered up. So I'll need to trim that off just a little bit, and that'll miss that. My holes are lined up here. I got a bolt in that one. That one's got a bolt in it. Looks like it might. That bolt holes off just a little bit. Let's see. You can't see it, but there we go. I don't need to trim that as much after all. Just trim the corner off of it and it'll be good to go. Put that on there just to keep the grinder dust out of the U-joint. And then it caught it on fire almost. So there you go. Those mounts are going to work. I'll straighten those up a little bit. About like that. And we'll, looks like we may need to center it a little bit. Looks like it needs to go over that way just a little bit, but that's pretty much right on the daggum money. And then we'll notch that wood that goes back in there on the floor. We'll notch that toe board to miss that transmission, because I can see that bell on that thing is going to hit. But I had to do that also on my 34, the Tom Sellers coupe. But that looks pretty darn good, man. Take a look at that. Heck yeah. How awesome is that? Get the little dirty gloves out of the way. Yeah, that looks good. That's going to fit just right. I'll check all my measurements, make sure it's centered, and we'll probably tack that sucker in there, maybe. I may mark all that before I tack it in. Just mark everything, that way I can line it back up, because I really need to get in there and clean that up so I can weld it. But I ain't mad at that at all. Still need to get in there and cut that out as well, front and back, because you can see that's going to hit, obviously. So we'll notch that thing out. Just clearance it. I have plenty of room, even if I need to come up a little bit, a little higher. I can come all the way up to the top of that. This is your pivot point for the rear end, so there's hardly any movement right there when the back's moving up and down, which is good. But I can get my wood blocks in there, and that'll raise that up probably another 1/4 inch anyway. And that'll be good to go. We need to try the radiator, make sure the radiator fits on there good. Generator will be good, but I actually I'm having Pre-War and More is rebuilding a generator for me and converting it to 12 volt. And I'll need a spacer on it. So I'm not sure, really not sure what I need to do on that right now. Probably nothing. Probably just leave that alone, put the radiator up there. I think the radiator is going to fit fine because it actually mounts right here in these holes. So it'll have plenty of space, and then I can shorten or lengthen a fan if I need to. Show you guys how these pedals work now. Now don't forget, the steering column isn't in here, so these will have to be adjusted to go around that, and we'll have to put the torch on them for that. Adjust those a little bit. They'll basically come up to the bottom of that wood there, and you can see that one's already hitting the bell. So that one's going to have to come over. It's going to have to come over here and then jog back over with that, which is crazy because it doesn't look right. We've got a new one of these. This is the stock one. So actually it looks like the fill will be right down there. So I should be able to get to that. I may go ahead and, when I put the wood floor in here, I'll put a hole in there so I can get to it and make sure that I can fill it up if I have to. You never know. But that'll work pretty good right there. So my lines will come off. Let's see, that's going to be flush about right in there. So those lines will come off and they'll have to come through this side of the cross member and head to the front. And then, like I said earlier, we'll probably bring one of those right here. Just put a tab right here and rubber line right to the axle. We're running hard lines down the wishbones. My Tom Seller's coupe, it's got a short hard line that runs back to a T and then it tees off to down the wishbones, which will be probably perfect on here. I'll just do the same thing because it worked great on that one. So I'll do the same thing, just run a short one down here to a T and then split off to the rear. Hook it up. Well, that's as far as I'm getting for tonight. I'm gonna go home and it's almost, I think it's almost 10 o'clock. That's 10:28. So another late night. But we made some good progress, that's good. We got the body on here. We got the motor mounted in. Pedals are kind of mocked up. So we'll just have to trim that stuff and set it in there. That'll be, man, that's gonna work great. It's gonna look good too. Alright guys, we can see why I've got the front motor mounts back in there. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this set up, both of these. I'll get the motor set up left to right, centered within the frame rails. And I need to go just a little bit. Actually, you need to measure off of the water pump. So, because the water pump hole here for the biscuit is slotted so it can move around. So make sure that your motor is centered from water pump to water pump within the frame rails. And then I'm going to utilize, I'm running full fender, so this is the front hood latch. This is the rear hood latch. So I'm just going to utilize that one bolt hole there to hold this motor mount in temporarily while I'm mocking all this up. There's our marks there. We'll hit that. Get her slicked off and put it back in there. Got that one notched out. So we'll put that in there, and I've got a small bolt here. Got that one notched too, finally. Battery finally charged up. Now that we know where those go, and those bolts will center that back up in there, we can pull that out and we can clean that all up. Get it ready to weld. We'll weld right down through there. And weld the legs to the outside of the frame rail. I'm going to go ahead and mark this so I know right where to open it up to. Let's see where our center is. Like that. There's going to be a lot of, it's in here, but there's movement here and movement up there in those, so you have a lot of, I mean, you can't just get like precise. The only thing you can do is you can get precise with your distance from here to your front motor mounts. And then this thing can do this in here, so you can adjust it, and you know, if you need to move it over just a tad bit, you can move it over a tad bit for exhaust, because we're going to have the steering box right here, and the exhaust is going to be, I mean, they're going to be fighting for the same zip code there. So over here, not going to be an issue. All we have is a starter and exhaust, and it'll go right around it and come right out, so no big deal there. But that's looking great. I'm happy with that. You guys might have noticed I got a different gas tank. Ended up having one that was pretty rotted out, so I was gonna gut it. The other one was pretty nice, so I cut the bottom out of this one because we're gonna put a gas tank in the trunk. Slipped off there and hit my head. Dipstick. But alright, now we need to relieve that one. I think I'll find me something that will fit in there and make a good circle. Why not, right? Just like the 50s. That's hilarious. Move you all over here. I hate doing it like this, but this is what I want to have to do. I might just cut it. Alright, we're going to do it again. This is actually 8th material. That is just, it's so thick, I don't think I can get it around there good enough. So I'm just going to remark these and cut new ones. Let's just do it. More cutting, grinding, and welding. We're going to have to slick this one off. See if we can get this. This one, you can see that flange is about 1.5 inches or so. That will get in the way of the lower pulley, so we're going to try to see if we can trim this down. Glad to have y'all back. While I was downloading the card, which was full, took 45 minutes, I went ahead and jumped back on the frame. Got that knocked out. It's kind of big, but hey, I don't have to do it twice. So I've got the motor sitting back in here. Kinda. It's ready to go back in. I trimmed these ears off on both sides there. And now I'm just going to clean this whole thing up a little bit with the flap disc before I get it back in there, because I'm going to weld it if I can. So you saw the front mounts down there. They're burned in about halfway. And we are moving ahead. The body's gone. Oh my gosh. We rolled it outside. Actually, I say we. I rolled it outside. So I just lifted it up and put it on a furniture dolly and rolled it right out there in the driveway, just to get it out of the way so I could get that one done. Now we're going to set this back in here, bolt it all up, and make sure it's right. I'm going to bring the body back in, set it on, and line up the bolt holes for the mounting, and then we'll probably burn that F1 crossmember in, and then we'll be ready to move forward. Once we get this all mounted in and welded in, I'll end up cutting and splicing these bottom corners down here off this F1 crossmember. I'll blend them into the frame. I'll just tilt them up just like that and weld them right to the bottom of that frame. Back out. I checked the master cylinder. it didn't want to line up. So what I had to do was I had to make a little piece right here on top of that to catch that corner, and then I also had to knock that corner off so that can. I thought when I put that together that the only thing that was going to be up in there was going to be like that. So the only thing that was going to be coming through there would be the brake switch and the little manifold there for the brake lines. But actually, it sets about like that right there. So I just went ahead and knocked that corner off of that, put another piece in there. And now we're going to try to get this motor back in here for the second time. In there. Pull that off now. I say we're good to go, but I don't really know. I'm not 100% sure. We're almost there. Almost back to square one where we were at. Yeah, it looks like we've got enough room here. So now, I'm going to go ahead and slide this forward as far as I can on those biscuits. Now we can bring that Model A body in. It's fixing to get bright, y'all. Almost like welding. Okay, we're pretty close. Pretty close. Looking good. Let's cinch that down. Keep that from going anywhere. And that looks right on the money. And we're almost there. We just need to tilt that up and get it in there pretty good. Make sure dimensions are the same. I think what I'll do think I'll put the jack underneath that master cylinder right there because it's bolted in, and we'll use it to get that thing kicked forward like it needs to be. Four-inch. We got minimal clearance there. All we need. Actually, that'll scoot over right there a little bit. She is in, y'all. There you go, guys. We got her in. She's mounted in there solid. I'll finish welding that. I'll pull this body back and I'll finish welding the inside of that frame rail, and then we'll trim all that up when we get it all off and flip it over. Flip that frame over. So that's what it takes right there. Man, guys, we got a 1/4 inch right there. We got enough room to adjust the cowl a little bit for the doors. And we can always scoot that body back just, you know, a tiny hair if we need to. Or we can scoot that motor forward a little bit if we need to also with these mounts because they are slotted. But it looks like, man, that's going to be pretty close. My rods will come in here. And that breather will sit on here. And that'll look pretty darn good. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time to thumbs up my videos. I love doing this stuff. This is absolutely a blast for me. So I like showing you what I'm doing. Like, share, and subscribe. See you guys later. Thanks.